Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. The title is When Collective Intelligence Spaces. When collective intelligence space teaches matter through itself. I would like to share a disclaimer. Aside from additional noises in the talk, but in this episode I'm going to be focused on a theosophical experience. I'm going to share more about my experience with the invisible, and in some sense I'm going to share in this lifetime so far, if I was to be asked what else is there aside from intelligence found in brains, what else is there? I want to attempt to give an answer to that, and the title I've chosen for tonight is going to help me with that. So, hold on, guys. First thing is first. What is the world we're in? Or what is the first position we find ourselves? Right now, anybody who's listening to me, you are a self in a world. You are a conscious self in a conscious world, and you're in a certain consciousness of your world. The self has a physical side to the coin and a subjective side to the coin. The world also has a physical side in front of our eyes, and it has a subjective side behind our eyes. Now, what's interesting is that the subjective self and the subjective world So what I mean is, world is divided between, the moment is divided between the experience of a self in a world. The self has a subjective component, objective component, physical component, non-physical component. The world has a physical component, non-physical component. Because we are first looking through the physical position, because the self is the generator of meaning, the world is not generating, in some sense, how would I say it? It's the self that interprets the phenomenology throughout the day to storify it, to be of influence to the attention that is acting as free will. So just to make it clear that when I speak about collective intelligence space, I'm speaking about the inner realms. And the inner realms is how we exist as subjects. Right now, anybody hearing me, it is true, there's a physical, biological existence, but there's also the movement of language behind your eyes. And a sort of, as if like, what do you get after 4.5 billion years of evolution? A story in an unknown place. That's it. It has taken us 4.5 billion years to just realize we still don't know. Now, please keep in mind, folks, usually in these talks I'm reserved and I don't share too much of inner realm theosophical experiences. But anytime a human being is a personality, this personality is not limited in just the range of attention. In the same way that you look at a person, technically, even though we have bodies, even though we have form, but from a materialistic standpoint, everybody's the periodic table right now, animate. We are at the periodic tables, looking at the periodic table. So because we are elemental, we are kind of like an ink in the void. In the same way, just like in the same way we have ink, a drop of ink fall onto a piece of paper, We have experience appear in a void field of existence. You know, when I was young, there was this show called Pokemon, the first of it, you know. In it, it was as if like a wild Pokemon appeared, you know? And really, it's as if like a wild world has appeared to the individual. That means what's funny is the same time the Pokemon is arriving, is the same, the Pokemon is appearing as an example, is the same moment where the world for that Pokemon is also appearing, you know? The story of life is an ink drop on the void. And human beings are living on a rock in the middle of nowhere. We have accepted set of language like blankets or like jackets, and we have stopped wondering. The amount of people, out of 8 billion human beings who wonder about the nature of reality, there has been something that I feel, because we want a reward, there's a reward psychology in the mindset of man, we have stopped exploration. I think at some point in the human psyche, comfort won. That means that when comfort was defined, that is to some degree a defeat. Now, onwards towards the personal experiences. Guys, the reason I'm sharing this is really because nobody knows how long this system continues in the same conscious framework that it is in. What does that mean? That means as temporary beings in an endless system, to pay attention to the system in finding it is endless creates resistance. So what does that mean? We're in an eternal video game, but we are a character that's here for a phase of the video game. So that means if I right now I'm sitting here and if I say, I want to know everything in manifestation, I want to know exactly what's going on in the Andromeda galaxy, I want to know exactly what's going on in the Vega star system, Orion star system. Let's say the person wants this, right? Realistically, the scale of the desire is bigger than the potential. As if like you want to go on a very long ride, you know, drive from Toronto to Washington, and it's like you have gas for maybe like 10 minutes. So really, we can say, if we consider that there is a self-created suffering, and there is a suffering that it's not created by yourself, there's a suffering that we experience but doesn't belong to us. That's physical pain. That means pain, if the person can experience it. You know, the pain the person experiences different experiences based on what they eat, what they do, and all of this. But the owner, there is no owner to an elemental realm. You know, that means the moment we say there is no God, just like Friedrich Nietzsche said, there is no God, God is dead and man killed him. The moment we say there is no God, there is not, no, man cannot take the place of God. Do you know what I mean? So what, because then it would be another God just called man. Do you know? So it's pretty much, we can say, human beings have been worshipping two gods. The gods of whatever ideological system, belief system, and then the gods of themselves. Because really, if you look at it, the concept of worship, not spelled with an A, but with an O, the concept of worship is, it is attention. So I'm trying to take the listener's view to a recognition that when I'm going to be speaking about certain theosophical experiences, this is based on my attention moving, whether my eyes are open or closed. The reality of the idea is not dependent on whether your eyes open or closed. You know, there's some truth. Let me say it like this: there's some ideas that they are from the environment. That means I'm looking at bottle of water in front of me. This bottle of water, it's information, it's content, but it's content conditional. When my eyes are open, I see it. But if I was to close my eyes, I still see the me, the idea of me. The idea of me doesn't matter if I open my eyes or close my eyes or turn my head left or turn my head right. It doesn't matter. It is there. You know? But a lot of ideology, they come from the environment. You know, there is one can say there's experiences that the person's eyes are only meant to see, and then there are collective experiences. There are certain things I've seen in this life that I can tell you by the moment, the first time I noticed it and saw it, I knew that I never needed to speak about it. Some things are forbidden. You know, I firmly feel this idea. I don't know why, but this concept of the forbidden is not forbidden because you can't. It's forbidden because it's like, imagine a bunch of soccer players playing on a soccer field and somebody from the audience wanting to run into the soccer field. It's forbidden. You know, literally you will get tackled out. And I feel there's certain spaces and states of existence. You see, we are a traveling creature to ourself, at least. We don't know. Maybe the world doesn't experience the world. Maybe the self only has a world. Maybe the world doesn't have a world. And if we attain a consciousness that is inseparable from the world, maybe we don't have any world. Maybe we're going to be being, we're going to just be energetic being. Do you know what that means? That means there is no form. There's just energy. The energy is potential. It hasn't become kinetic yet, you know? So, this has to do also with my character and who I am as an individual. In this life, I would say I do certain things very in accordance to commonality, and certain things my behaviors, even since childhood, there's certain things that are unknown, uncommon. That means there's been many moments where I can tell you I have been silenced from the inner realms. That means I enter a situation and there's no, literally like a valve that is open, the valve closes, you can say, you know. In 2011, just to tell you the story, 2011, since childhood, I've had an awareness to religious themes, multidimensionality, even certain esoteric stories. You know, I've been aware of those, but it wasn't of interest. It only became interest when the life I was living in the outer realms reached a resistance point. You know, and in that resistance point, I realized I don't know who I am. I've been living till 2011, since 1991, and I don't know what this is that is looking. And it was such a real not knowing. You know how somebody knows something? Let's say you throw a three-pointer basketball and it's like, you know, it's going to go in seconds before it goes in, right? But this was the same way, but I knew that I didn't know. Do you know? I knew that it was as if like I was noticing every time I asked myself, who am I? That answer was one thought one, and then I would ask it, who am I again? Another thought. Then I'm like, what is this? Have I been living my whole life with momentary projections of ideology evoked in the instant? Or is there something more? And the mystery takes you to the viewer. That means after you have looked at certain outer realm mysteries, and if you find a contentment, if you are blessed enough or required by the universal sector, you know, you will suddenly notice something more. You will live a life more than an object here. And even more than a subject that is like a candle flame waiting for the light to melt. You know? There is a continuity. That means there is man's work, and then there is the universe's work. What does that mean? There's ants, building ant hills, and there's human beings building human civilizations, and what else? And that's where I want to comment on. What I feel we are the ants to is not physical, but it is intelligent. It is intelligence prior to form as space. And one thing, one error we have done, I feel we have the sort of materialistic vision has committed, is that it has believed in emptiness of outer space. That means, how hilarious would it be if all the planets are inhabited but by beings in other dimensions we can't see? Can you imagine? There's a parallel universe. Imagine poetically, playfully. There's a parallel universe where all the other planets are filled. Even the sun is filled. So the sun's not a planet, but even the sun is filled with beings on it. And Earth is empty. All the other planets have civilizations on it except Earth. You see, I feel it's a subtlety. I feel the color spectrum. The Pink Floyd album cover was revealing an ultimate truth. That light has entered a sort of system, and it has spectrumized. It has become the color spectrum. So one side of the coin, oh, is it oneness? One side of the coin, oh my God, multidimensionality, endless infinity, But the whole point is, I find, that to wonder what else is here. That is the point of living, I find. For the mind, at least. For the body, sure, I don't know. Maybe it's comfort. Maybe it's, I don't know, status, whatever. The body has different, for your body, there's different intentions. I mean, a person can just dedicate their whole life, like those Muay Thai fighters, to just kicking a palm tree with their shin. Do you know what I mean? Like there's different ways the physical existence can be utilized, but how much of it is the mind's work? And then comes the second question: how much of the mind's work is for yourself or is for your world? That's it. That's I would say, one of the ultimatum of the mature human evolutionary being. That you are first filtering meaning and your value, extracting your value system through the idea of self. This idea is literally a box on the head of the person, or let's say it's a helmet. That's the best way of saying, because it has utility. Being your name and form as a being, it's like without that, it's like I don't know how we would individually exist to even have the concept of work. Anything that surpasses duality, it cannot be put in language. And that's why I created the term the language threshold. Now, after 2011, something unique happened. It started from me in my, honestly, I was raking leaves, and I remember I started in my inner realms hearing poetry. Poetry for the first time, sentences. Do you see how, trust me, I wasn't a person, I wanted to be a soccer player as a kid. I wasn't, since a young age, reading endless, for me, literature, I didn't care. I honestly can tell you, I didn't care for knowledge. I cared what knowledge could do for me. So I cared for specific knowledge, until the unknown visited me. Until I realized everything I have been presuming to be the certainty of what I am is an error. I noticed the error of emptiness. The empty viewer. The glitch in the ideological dualistic system, an invisible viewer. Because all visibility, all visibility is instantly being put into language. That means if human beings didn't want to share something from behind their eyes in front of their eyes, there would be no need for language. You know? Language, which is now containing the meaning of the world, it's a simulation we're in. And it is chaos. I will say this, these talks are not for the faint of heart. That means the cup can become empty. Some days I feel it doesn't matter who you are, your eyes will notice what's going on here, you know? Okay. So, where was I? Yeah, it started with noticing information, the movement of information from how I was used to in my inner realms. There was poetry I heard. I was raking leaves, and it just made me cry. You know, like a grown man in the middle of the day raking leaves on a sunny day, just tears flowing. You know, because of some inner like poetry. It was as if language was sequenced in a way where it had shown an image. You know, I'm telling you, just like how you can see something in front of you happen that makes you cry, you know, let's say you see like the world being destroyed, you know, like that's gonna make you cry if there was a meteor, you know. But I'm saying, imagine in your inner realm fathoming extinction and responding your current psychology of this conscious line, kind of responding to it in this way. So, anyways, I noticed that the mind was a space where my individual experience as a human being was a river. Think of it as a river, and there was another river, another stream, and I could tell instantly what I was thinking and what was my thought in a current, you know, in a flow, in a rhythm, in a movement. There is something, you know what it is? It's literally like, I feel sometimes when I'm speaking, I'm language surfing. That means behind my eyes, I'm seeing a sort of film, and as I see that film, and as I see that film animate and move, the language accompanies it. The language accompanies the waves, you know. Excuse me. Anyways, where was I? So onwards, from 2011, first thing that happened was writing. I started writing a lot of poems, essays. Just I would pick up a notebook and just watch my hand, and it was as if from an emotion of knowing the concepts were already there, as if there was a sort of to the personality it was unconscious, but to the personality that trusted the conscious, the unconscious became conscious instantly. You know. So I remember I went through a phase where I was writing a lot, ridiculous amount. I've written this. It is accessible on Amazon here, but it's called Above the Peak. This was the one of the biggest poetry works I ever completed before giving these talks. Sorry, not before. Starting earlier, before 2014, and then continuing onwards. Oh no! Sorry. From 2014 to 15, when I started these talks in the UK. Anyways, the poetry collection is called Above the Peak. Every day I would wake up, pretty much go to a coffee shop or something, and sit, and I would I had this notebook, I had a pen, I had headphones sometimes listening to music, and I remember I would just feel something, then literally the hand already had the memory, as if the instruction had, by the mere feeling, the objective realm listens, I will tell you. You know, emotions, if wielded properly, are divine gifts. But anyways, so every day I would wake up, and each of it, the whole poetry collection is called Above the Peak, and there's a month for a whole year. I would pretty much every day write poems, you know. And I remember, because I was in the UK, 2014. My parents were in Iran at the time. And I remember I was just sending them, emailing them, just like two to three. Some days it got really large, the list, but like I would just email them every day these mystical hymns. Can you imagine? And I think, honestly, when I look at it, I think they were like, what is this? But anyways, there came an inspiration to express, not vocally, through the pen. So I will tell you, even when I give these talks, anytime, I don't know, my attention drifts off, or something distracts me, or something from the inner realms distracts me, or whatnot, like I immediately, when I grab a pen and a piece of paper, the command I have over my inner realms is, I will tell you, ridiculous. That means it's as if like I can even fill out the gaps of memory, you know. But my whole point of this, the reason I'm sharing this to you, is to say that as a human being, there was first nothing, then there came some sort of unknown feeling that I don't know. From that feeling of I don't know, then there was preferencelessness. From that preferencelessness, then came some poetry, some inner realm. I heard inner realm poetry. From that inner realm poetry, I trusted it. It was as if like suddenly a new experience had been added. And as I could tell you, throughout the years, the transition has been from first the attention being on language to now the attention being through image. This is our true nature as human beings, and we don't realize it. But it is easier for us. You know what they say? They say like a picture is like a thousand. A picture is like, what do they say? A picture is like worth more than 1,000 words or something. So imagine if you could see pictures in your inner realms. Each picture could turn into 1,000 words. So I'm telling you, first there was a relationship with the language of my own mind, and by just endlessly expressing, there was something being, what's the term? Reformatted, or realigned, or refreshed. I don't know how to say it. Something was changing. Meanwhile, with the trust of any action, anything you do on this planet, if you trust and continue, it leads somewhere. It may not lead to what you want, but it leads to something. Anyways, from that poetry, then it came 2014, and it was a strange time. Very simple, minimalistic phase of my life. And from 2014, I began speaking. And sorry guys, I forgot to say, it wasn't just poetry. I would wake up in the mornings and I would get my laptop in front of me, just kind of like still a bit sleepy, and I would go in front of it and I would start speaking. And I've written a lot of, I've turned a lot of recordings, believe it or not, into books. But really what it was a sincere curiosity that if you were an instrument, you want to learn how to play this intelligence before the instrument is taken away from you. You know, so it's as if you have pulled Excalibur. So many people, when it comes to truth, they're looking for Excalibur to pull it out, but no, many people don't realize being here, it means you have already pulled out Excalibur. You know, that something has been authorized, as if imagine a potential energy. There is invisible potential for endless beings to emerge in this universe. Do you know? But they are waiting. There are the potential energies in the waiting room, and now we are the ones who are on stage. We are the roar of the line of the living earth. Now, because I said there's a theosophical dimension to this, I gotta say two things. First, the earliest thing that came to me from what I felt was some unknown, I'm not even giving it a shape for now for the listeners. Through this talk, I've kind of made it an aim for me to speak about it. But pretty much, I would say the logos through my own fingers reminded me not to get attached to faces in the void. That means there is the known and the unknown for this self that is in this world. And if this self gets attached to the face of the invisible other, it stops seeing the invisible other. Then it's fooled from the beginning. Do you know? That means that's the thing. Some people who have pride before actually caring for awareness to information in the situation, do you know they are actually fools that don't know they're fools yet? That's the air of pride, you know? That means it's like, just like we say, it's like everybody needs air, you know? And we can say everybody can look at the world and see more. Honestly, patience. There's a patience component, a patience with yourself, a patience with your world, a patience with whatever way they dance, and a patience with the dancer beyond words. So, from expression, from a sort of expressionism, inner realm attentiveness, you know. 2014, the talk started, then, you know, I cranked out a bunch of poetry books in from 15 to 16, I think. And the thing was, meanwhile, the whole time, then in 2015, I remember I was sitting giving, I don't remember which talk it was I was giving, but I remember exactly where I was, you know. Maybe if you go look at the earliest talks, you'll see where I started giving these talks. But it's like in the picture of the early episodes. But pretty much I was given a talk. I felt as if my whole moment of being is like a sphere, and for the first time it was as if I noticed the sphere moving rather than what's in it. So I noticed as if like think of it as if there's a giant sphere. Let's say you're walking in the street, and let's say you see a giant sphere and you see a person inside that sphere, you know. Now imagine that person suddenly being still and the sphere rolling through them or rolling past them. Do you know? Like, I don't know if I'm saying it. Pretty much it was as if my moment moved and left behind my archetype. It was as if my soul moved faster than my mind. And my body was shocked, you know? I had terminology. Even though I wrote down for myself, don't see a face to the unknown, I did see faces in the unknown. Do you know? It's just that I didn't care for them. Not in a cruel way, not in a way where, as if like an aliens come to shake hands with you and you're like, get out of here. No, 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 no. Not a story. I realized I was not a story, then the unknown. I experienced the unknown. And really, what it feels like, it's literally like a roller coaster. There's a part of you that is set in stone. It's like in a river. That means there is, in the appearance of energy, an individual who has free will and can move, but at the core levels of the essence, even though Sartre may reject this, but I'm saying like, at the core essence, there is think of it this way, we are an unknown causal dynamism and a known static effect is the result. There's a view on cause and effect as if they're in one room, and then there's a view that the cause never stopped and the effect is its own cause. It's its own new creation. I would tell you what I bypassed the face part, the attachment to the face part, due to my writing, but I'll tell you, these are the phases. You are first stationed as a visible self. You notice a visible world. You look at that visible world, you wonder if there is something else. You wonder about an invisible world. The moment you wonder about an invisible world, you are also simultaneously wondering about an invisible self. And when it comes to invisible self, it is as if there needs to be an administration of mind. That means language in higher dimensions has a life of its own. But here, language can instantly be stripped, as if like an armor just instantly taken off, so because the warrior now needs to travel lightly. It needs more mobility. Okay. I saw my own mind through various forms. The first language, I would say, the first language that came was Astra. That was the first name which I gave to a force that I felt was moving in my space. You know, later on, three other terms came: Raha, Asma, Vanura. These were three names that I would tell you they came from the inner realms to me, you know. And guys, I may be getting too detailed here, but my whole point is that there was a relationship with an intelligence that at first was treated separate in order to have a communication possible. But then beyond that, you recognize that energy has no face. And when you realize energy has no face and you realize it also behind your eyes, you become the unknown witness of all phenomena. And energy can no longer fear itself or resist itself. All of these relationships with the inner realms that developed, they all came to a round circle where I would say there was nothing wrong with the eyes from the beginning. That nature was never flawed. And it is truly desire, the spontaneous instruction, that is otherworldly. It's kind of like everybody alive now is like a sentence written on an empty page. And the next sentence that's going to be written on the empty page, nobody knows. And there is no way we can tell what the next sentence that's going to be written into the world is, from just how we are in a formation, in a view. So, I don't know, I guess to bring this talk around circle, there's intelligence as space, or let's say if there is 0 point whatever amount of zeros you want, 1%, that this is multidimensional. There's a mind body, mysterious mind body dualism going on. It's as if first we're under the impression that intelligence is form based causally. Then we realize awareness is a space. The brain is an object, but right now I ask you, your mind, everybody who's listening to me, this consciousness that we all have, doesn't it appear as a space? Doesn't your sensory awareness appear as a space? It's as if we have opened our eyes in an invisible room first, then in a visible room. Now, because we think it's only the visible room and there's stuff going on in the invisible room, we're like, what does this mean? Does this mean it's only the visible room, or does this mean the visible room was never the visible room? I feel the soul, excuse me, I feel the soul is intelligent space. It's a field of intelligence, and there is no shape we can give this field of intelligence if its intelligence is interacting with us. That means, let's say on one view, you're seeing 8 billion human beings, each of them being individual, separate, each of them having their own free will, different DNA, different ethnocentrism, motives. But then imagine if you could see on another side, we were all like leaves in a river. Do you know? We are all being moved by the same common forces, even though the individual is different, but the collective is the same. The collective space is the same. Throughout the years, starting from 2011, even up till now it's not very ideological for me. Now the inner realms is, I've experienced it enough. But I would say, when it comes to, I don't know, I've seen the invisible other as, I've seen a face to it at times, but no attachment to the face. I've seen it as a rhythm. I've seen it as the whole moment. I've seen it as geometry. I have seen that in the future we're just geometrical awareness. As if from the beginning it's just been space and geometry, being the simulation of everything. Then it became realizing the self and the world are inseparable. That means that space cannot be the invisible other anymore. So the invisible other, actually, it's as if when the river enters the ocean, it can't think like a river anymore. It can't live like a river anymore. So it's an ultimatum. It's a remembrance of an energetic being prior to a linguistic outcome. That means karma is programmed by language. Language influences. We don't realize the power of our voices, really, but the voice of the human being can, like a Photoshop brush, can like literally language is meaning. When I think about what I know, and I'm like, okay, it's in accordance to, if I truly know it, I can say it. If I don't know it, I can't say it. Even if I try as hard as I want, I can't say it. So experience is reminding itself that it never was an object, never was a subject, but we right now, the person speaking to you and you listening, we are the subjects, and experience is remembering itself collectively through the individual. So what does that mean? That means we either have two choices. We either stay in this civilization 1.0's dualistic singular dimension. That means language is a multidimensional system, but when you look at human beings, it's just this here. It's just, a physical organisms, biological organisms. The mind is the privilege. The mind is the additional thing. The mind is the gift of the universal sector. And when you look at nature, even on a very basic level, animals behave to their ecosystem. That means it's strange, but if you if the person doesn't have a mind of their own and it's the outer realms that are defining who they are all the time, that's literally, it's like, it's as if it's a hilarious joke, you can say, where nature gave you a brain that could notice beyond the ecosystem, but the person is limited to their ecosystem of their own choice. So that's why I'm saying it's like language can possess a person or language can liberate them. Tony Stark could use his Iron Man suit to destroy a building filled with innocent people, or he can use, his suit to save all those people, and being destroyed in that building. So it would be something where you care for the nature of the world, it opens up to you. You experientially stretch your being. Physically people stretch. This is like experientially, you stretch your mind. In the yogic sense, they were like the yogi remembers. The yogi finds their divine memory. The mystic. For our eyes are not just the ones we look through. Our eyes are also ones that these eyes bow to. They bow to the nature of the being. Of course, guys, I'm keep in mind what I'm saying is I'm one person here, and the point is really everyone. You have two choices in this life. Mr.Within will say this: you're either exploring the uncharted territory, or you are sitting in charted territory. Either the past repeats or the new begins its work. Guys, we can make a chart. I don't know if Carl Jung did this, but he might have. First, there's the visible self. Then we have the invisible self. Or let's say we have the visible self. Okay, yeah. Visible self, invisible self. Visible world, invisible world. Now there's also another relationship. We have the visible other, and we have the invisible other. Currently, we have access to 3 out of 6. With content, we could do something. People have access to a visible self. They're physically existent. They have access to the visible world. And they see also others. Visible other. The visible other. I could just declare this. These are the 3 great mysteries of Earth, of this world of ours. The invisible self, the invisible other, the invisible world. These 3 are what the children of the future generations will have no choice but to open the hood of the engine, hood of the car to see the engine. when I think about, I wanted to create a phase. I wanted to create a kind of chart because Carl Jung speaks about synchronicity. Synchronicity is awareness to the invisible other. Or you can say synchronicity is when a movement behind your eyes and a movement in front of your eyes are in sync. So there's a coincidence. So like you're thinking about apples and suddenly out of nowhere, like an apple falls out of your hand. You're like, what is this? And you know, it's like Carl Jung's shouting from the distance, synchronicity. You know? The visible self is in the jurisdiction of free will. The visible other isn't. That means people, their free will is their director. Every person should see every other person as a pilot. And they should see it that it's an unknown mind not moving through a living body. Because that is the case. As long as we have the hard problem of consciousness, we have these questions of why this language. That means really, I'm telling you, science will have to fight to keep language alive. But language is the tip of the iceberg. That means my whole feeling. That means I can tell you, I'm a person who I have a passion for the sciences, you know, engineering especially. But I'll tell you that for me, the language is the limitation, you know. That means we are limited to what is in this space. And I think this is why Albert Einstein was like, imagination is the sign of true intelligence, because imagination is the new. Everything that we know previously, it's known, you know? That means the true teacher of man is the unfamiliar. So, yeah, let's make a chart. We have VS VW. Then we have V, IW, then we have IS. So you draw a circle, divide it into 4 pieces, and then use these acronyms. VS, VW, IW, IS. There's a phase of life where we're living as a visible self. Then there is a phase of life where you serve the world of this visible self. Do you know? Or you know, guys, we can make it the other way where it's visible world ISIW. But pretty much a phase where you're living as a visible self, a phase where you're serving the visible world of this self, and once your work with the visible is done, then most likely you will notice your invisible self. And when you notice your invisible self, here's the strange part where different schools of mysticism kind of have different crossroads. Some people feel that the moment you realize the invisible self, it is the will of the invisible world. So what does that mean? That means we are a creature with attributes. We're questioning, what is this attribute, you know? And as we're questioning, we're like an astronaut moving further and further away from the space station. We're reaching a point where we cannot identify with the same forms in view. I feel the true teacher is the whole moment. It can't be a part of it. I feel from the beginning everybody knows that they have been a moment. I feel everybody who has blown a birthday cake has been acting. They have been acting because we say it's my birthday. Who's that my? We say my mind, my body, my soul. Who's that my? You know? So you see, it's the archaic revival of the unknown. That means that's what happens when you stop giving the cosmos a personality, or when you stop giving the self, a personality. Then what else are you left with? You're left with the unknown. So I am telling you, if we as a species can find a way to become energized when we notice unknown circumstances, then we will never go extinct. It is only the fear of the outcome that taints the first intent of the movement, you can say. Any movement. That means there's something in Zen archery where they say when you let go of the bow, there is no Zen master, there is nothing, there is just the finger, the bow, letting go. That's it. It's like an insta moment. Pa! You know? The mind has an ability to fathom endless sorts of forms simply because it has accumulated a ridiculous amount of classes of ideology, classifications of the visible realm. Now, one thing that tends to happen is that it is always intense when anything the person is attached to shakes. That means right now, I don't know, if suddenly, like, I don't know, let's say a person is walking and suddenly it's as if they are struck by lightning and they start shaking, but then they're normal, you know? And they see nothing's happened, even there isn't those weird tattoos on the back, you know? The mind has the same capacity. Think of all the different versions of yourself you have seen from the beginning of your life till now. The mind has an ability to see a different world for each of those selves. It is a very strange time because I think we have reached a point where language can't cross. Language is the gate to the higher dimensions. Communication and its advancement is the unforbidden grace and magic of the realm. The potential of clarity. The breath, or the first breath of a collective being. That means we should create poetically as a species, instead of saying a person is born once, we should say a person is born 3 times. And someone is going to be like, Mr.Within, what do you mean? First birth, physical. The birth of the object into the world. You arrived as a form. The second birth, the child looked at it in the mirror, as Jacques Lacan says. this French philosopher. You were born as a subject to yourself, as a person. Your name. You were given a name, pretty much. Now, the third birth is you were born physically, you were born as an ideological human being. Now, the third birth is the presence of the collective experience. That is it. We are not here to evolve in the world. Whether this is, you can say this is like a coin flip, but I feel we're headed this way. I feel we think that physicality is temporary, but physicality is becoming non-physical. What we see from evolution is an object turned to a subject to itself. And I feel the physical world is turning into a subject to itself, but not in the time span that we can perceive. That means give it 10,000 years, we'll advance beyond the language threshold conceptual. That means there would be no individual, there would no longer be a history to the species. You see, history is the effort of individuals, you know? When we get to that collective experiential state where I think the collective intelligence space is teaching people through themselves, when I say when collective intelligence space teaches matter through itself, that statement can be heard in two ways. Whether collective intelligence space is teaching matter through itself, or collective intelligence space is teaching matter through matter. It's like an unknown viewer unknown viewer of a known world, really. Okay, so I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to read for the audience a poem from Above the Peak. Why not? Let's do this. So, Above the Peak, the month of January, book was written in 2014, actually. 43 poems. Guides Coming, that's the name of the poem, and it was written 01/01/14. Guides Coming, Guides, Guides Coming. I am, just a second, let me put music in the background. I am who I am, for it has been defined. Let life be your guide. Beyond your smile there is a place where you shall find the great embrace. Do not think I am weak, just because my mouth doesn't speak. Begin reading with your soul, through synchronicity comes your road. I am of the silent roar that wakes up the jungle made to glow. I am the beacon that calls all lights, for my spark has been found within my eyes. Do not begin your climb on this mountain made of thoughts. That's a portrait in front of your eyes which will lift when your time comes. Hang it on the wall and carry on. It grows, it leaves, it becomes. Trees have answers, trees have ways. In the end, we are the same. The next poem is called If the Earth Could Speak. If the earth could speak, it would smile and say, "Beloved, stay strong, you already know the way. You are but a grain of dust on one of the oldest beings alive. Know you were placed because it was your time. Landing on the land you were meant to stay. Climb up my shoulders, reach for heaven's gate. You will see my eyes pointing to where I must be. For even I must walk every night and day, where I may walk no more, but fade into the sun that shines in my world. Invited to the ball of balls, all planets are invited to this palace of light. If you only knew, I have worn you around my neck, beautiful pearls of light turning heads all over space. My heart is always beating, feel it in every breath. A beat so loud, that is why I spin around, dancing to the eternal sound on the floor of the universe. For even I was born from the father of the cosmos. The daughter of a galaxy, waiting to see me come home. I was born to glow, shining for all to see. Come close to me, let me kiss your forehead free. Dive into my every sea. See the truth hidden in my depths. Guys, this is the planet speaking, by the way. Like, that's how this poem's context is. Like, this is all like the planet speaking. The center of the world is beating in your chest. Oh, sorry, I forgot to read something. Dive into my every sea, see the truth hidden in my depths. The center of the world is beating in your chest. I have many faces, for many faces face me. My volcanoes are not filled with rage. But step back when you see my being speak. When you see myself pouring through me, let your eyes smile, for they are part of me. I welcome all who have come to stay, to send my voice to the ears that can't hear my call. Soon it will be my time. I must be ready to dance with the stars. I must prepare my legs to become one. Help me find. Guys, this is the planet speaking. Help me find my dress. The next dance awaits. I am ready to walk into the celestial halls, the family of light holding my arms. Oh my god, this is, holy shit, it's too long. Okay guys, I gotta soldier through this. Where was I? A family of light holding my arms, a wedding that will change my name. In this union hold my dress. Wear the right shoes, you will walk on me right. I dance with all the stars, the planets and I are meant to walk together. There is no time but the movement of hearts. You are part of the love, beloved. You are part of the love, beloved, where my love comes from. For I too shall let go of my form when the time comes. My lover awaits behind doors that will soon open. Remember yourself and what you are a part of, for I have never forgotten you. Let my universal eyes guide you through. Ask the sun of the truth I share. For Gaia's smile, let go of her name to be with her whole once again. So guys, the whole point of this was literally the planetary sector. I would interpret it as that. For Gaia's smile, let go of her name, the planet was no longer a concept. To be with her whole once again. That means it's as if the planet, it's like before the people in the world could transcend, the planet transcended. You know, they ask the person, are you enlightened? The guy's like, yeah, sure, man, yeah. And they're like, how? It's like, because the world is, you know? There's another poem. It's called Sooner Than Now. 010414. I'll read this, guys, and then so the poem's called Sooner Than Now. And then came ancestors opening the closest door. That's how the poem begins. And then came ancestors opening the closest door. You are of the light, they said, stepping into your hole. This dream is more than a drop in the sea of sight. Your transformation will be complete. Roads will no longer be broken by the confused eye. Let your dream awaken your mind to see all roads infused as one. For your being has crossed many paths. You were born out of a star. Do not limit yourself to a caste. It is through the door of love where great treasures you will find. If I am a treasure revealer, then my heart is where I have begun. If you are too old to remember, let the sincere child stand up. Stand up inside. Children do not speak the language of hate. It is taught by disharmonious forms. To set yourself free, just gaze at the world. To set yourself free, just gaze at the whole. WHOLE. Just gaze at the whole. Look at the whole thing. If you want to be free, look at the whole thing. That's pretty much. So to set yourself free, just gaze at the whole. Does your breath only fill up your body? Does your name only cover your face? Does the living bee, B-E-E, care of the sweetness its honey brings? Or work with the purpose of its being? Do your work with love, bigger eyes will always smile. Even earth will cheer when you have gotten rid of the form of fear. Fear has no shape in the formless sky. Its color is only chosen by the eyes of the mind. Where there is laughter, tears will break into joy. There is no steam that fears the cold. It will rise to the light that calls it from above. For there is no sky that fears the ocean, and no ocean that fears the stream. It is the journey of the drop to become part of a higher dream. For it is from that cloudy dream where the universe rings, letting parts of itself to experience itself in new ways. Astronomers have looked into the night to find what they have been missing in the day. Even asteroids wonder who tightens their belt. Man must evolve from its games of hate to let his love pass through the universal gate. For it is through love of self that we find the cosmic heart beating through our chest. Remember your embrace, it is the universe that has given you a face to see yourself. And in the depths of your heart, may you find the spark that has made your way. Stay, stay, for if you try to run away, you will forget the way you came. The hands of duality must come together before you may see the reflection made in the formless lake that fate pours into the palms of your fate. Step within, beloved, for all steps come from within. Yeah. I mean, guys, it's like because the brain is such a central position, technically everything's from within, you know. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. This was a long poetry tunnel. So, guys, I'm going to share the Discord link. I'm going to be there for a couple minutes for those interested, and then after many eons, I will look at the clock. So, guys, ultimately, the whole point of this episode was to say that I feel even the way everything is moving towards itself. Guys, I'll be on Discord if people have questions or, you know. Usually I'm such an excellent speaker that that nobody has questions. Really, that's the thing. Better than having a question is to be in a state of awe or something like that, you know. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I'll be in the Discord for like 10 minutes. Blessings.